Welcome back to the Football Experience, episode 12, a podcast that details a journey of a sport person, be it an athlete, a coach, and an administrator. Today, we have the latter in Kago Mosinyi, an administrator of note. And we are broadcasting live from Extension 11, Hope Worldwide offices in Gaborone. Remember, Hope Worldwide is our partner, and they have various services in OVC and HIV and mobilization and campaigns. I'm your host, Molefi Kenemiaobenne, and this is the Football Experience. Mr. Mosinyi, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, Molefi. How are you?
I'm good. So you're at Cloud, eh?
I beg your pardon?
You're at Cloud. Why do you say Molefi? Because I said Kago Kariso.
Lina la motoko, right?
And you know, something about you. You're always formal or conventional. What is your nickname?
My nickname?
Yeah.
My nickname varies in the different stages of my life.
Take me through that, man.
Nickname. All right. Okay. The nickname that I can remember, it was when I was young. Negizana Skwele go Thornhill, just down the road from where we are now. A few meters from this Hope Foundation offices. So one day we were in class and we were Nerevalwa historian. So the name Chicago came across in one of the stories. So the other students got excited because Chicago has a AGO at the end. So so then my name, I got the nickname Chicago. That's standard for again.
I see.
But the more the nickname grew, even the nickname got shortened. So Chica became my nickname. And you'll see the people who call me Chica are from that era. But even in the football circles, in terms of crowns, the team that I more or less represent, they also call me that Chica.
Oh, I see. So that's the only nickname you have now that you can say, no, this is what is the one.
That's the one. That's the one. Let's leave it there.
Now let's take the viewer at home and make him understand who Kago is.
Hela, where do I start? No. Since we're on the football experience, I suppose as a football, Kago is an administrator. He's a football administrator. At the moment, I'm serving as a member in the Gaborone Region Football Association. So that's where I apply my trade.
You earlier on talked of your early days at Thornhill. Maybe just out of interest, can you take us through your early childhood days, intertwining your football and also your schooling days up to the senior level?
Up to the senior level?
Yeah.
Okay. I started my primary school at Thornhill. That's where I did my schooling. What did we used to have? We used to have only 3 private schools, I think, at the time in Gaborone. Namely Thornhill, Northside, and Broadhurst. So in terms of sports-wise, those were our 2 competitors, right? And I think in terms of football and athletics, Thornhill was always the better.
Because you were there.
100%, because I was there. Anyway, but what used to happen...
But I've never had a football person say, man.
Well, that's going to come. Okay. Don't worry. Don't preempt. Don't preempt anything. So anyway, so after in Thornhill days, what happened was when we were in standard 4, we used to have like an under 9, but back then it wasn't called under 9. It was called Colts. I don't know for what reason. They were called Colts, and then we had an A team. That was the senior team, for which I played for both of them, right? Starting off in standard 4, I think. Standard 4, standard 5, playing for the Colts, and then standard 6, we played for the A team, right? And then I went to school in Zimbabwe.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in Bulawayo. A very lovely school called Christian Brothers College.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Sports in Zimbabwe, you know how sports is like. It's a compulsory activity. So in the first few years, Form 1, Form 2, we were compelled to play rugby.
Is it?
So I played rugby.
But you are tiny, man.
I've always been tiny. I used to play fullback.
Not fly half.
No. I used to play fullback because of the football experience. I could kick the ball.
So you always play for the B team, not the A team, or you started off with the B and then.
No. Like you said, I was tiny. So I used to play for the B team. I played rugby for those 2 years, and then soccer or football was played in the later stages. Rugby and football were played simultaneously, but rugby dominated in terms of the school sports. That was the dominant sport. There was hockey and rugby in the second term. Each
The third term now, that's when you do football.
No, they were both played. And then what happened was in Form 3, that's under 15 now.
Yeah.
So I played rugby under 13, under 14. Then in Form 3, under 15, under 16, that's when we were able to play football, when football was generally accepted as a major sport. Right?
And then I remember there was the Peter Ndlovu tournament at the Boba. How do you call that? Boba Fields, eh?
Baba Fields.
Yeah.
It's in that's the Highlanders sort of like home ground.
Yeah.
And their training is just their training fields are just adjacent to that field. So it's a big field in Bulawayo. But where was I with my footballing thing? And then I got coached by Mr. Mafu. I don't know if you remember Bongani Mafu. Yeah, he's actually, now I know him as a French teacher. He's actually was a French teacher, go CBC. Hey, and then coming back to the losses, we were a private school, right? So in Zimbabwe, when you went to a private school, you were called Umtana Masalad, meaning literally. So we used to play with these non-private schools. We used to play with those. So we used to get hammered very badly by those schools. But then Mafu came in under 15, and that all changed.
Is it? So he was actually a good coach from.
Yeah, no, he was a good coach. He really liked football. That guy. He lived for football. I remember there was a time I was one of the better players in football. Remember, the school was dominated by rugby players and hockey players. So when it came to football, there were very few of us who actually played. And you must remember, when we were growing up, there was no this under 15, under 13. No, I mean, especially primary school. We invested a lot of hours playing football. Remember, there was no PlayStation, there was no YouTube podcasts and what have you. So we invested those 10,000 hours. So that experience there was what helped,
Did you also do your senior school there, or it was only the junior level?
No, I did senior school. I did Form 1 up to Form 6 at CBC.
And how was the Zimbabwe experience? Take me through the Zimbabwe experience, because I know a lot of guys used to go to Zimbabwe and we were told it was better education there.
Yeah, no, definitely. Well, I don't know, because I wouldn't compare, but the Zimbabwean experience was wonderful, in the sense that it was, for me, it was out there, no parents really. I stayed with guardians, right, most of the time. But Zimbabwe back then, it was truly a sporting nation. I mean, the school sport was well organized. It was highly competitive, especially the rugby, but even the football for those schools that did play.
And that's why Zimbabwe is actually also good in cricket, because back in the days they used to.
Well, just to relay my experience, I would say, I'm quite competent in a number of sports, even cricket. I played cricket even as far back as primary school. I played basketball at primary school, even in Zimbabwe. I played that. I can swim. I can sit down and watch super sport and not be lost, and regardless of which sport is playing. So even in Zimbabwe, I think they encourage that. Even athletics. I used to be a long distance runner. I could jump higher than 1 meter 50, 1.5 meters. Hey, I could, but it really, and you know how Zimbabweans are. They are very competitive, especially not to sound tribalist, but definitely the Shona guys. They tend to be quite arrogant about it as well. So growing up in that environment was good, because you always no matter what, you had to bring your A game in whatever you did.
And then eventually you came back to Botswana to be assimilated back into the country. How was the transition from there? And immediately again, you went to do this Tirolo Setšhaba thing.
Hey, now I went to Tirolo Setšhaba, but if you remember, there were those the Mbagani boys. Hey, I used to play football with them. My football was at their level, but when they returned at O level at Form 4. Now only returned at Form 6, but I would say it was pretty hostile in the sense that it wasn't the game wasn't competitive. It wasn't as organized as in Zimbabwe. So you were really reliant on yourself to actually make it through the cracks, right? Of which, like you said, some of us were tiny, were a little bit timid, even though we came from Zimbabwe in sports. But I did play football at Tirolo Setšhaba. I did my Tirolo Setšhaba in Gumare. You know where that is?
Yeah,
In the north there. I played my Tirolo Setšhaba, and I was quite a fan of the English game back then. I remember Zimbabwe was a Commonwealth country, so they had access to, and they had their own TV station at the time. So they had access to the English ZBC. They had access to the Premier League.
No, was it not during the era of Bruce Grobler?
They had that. So I developed that interest in the English league mostly during the Tirolo Setšhaba era. So I used to be a big fan of your Ray Parlas, your Roy Keane, and your Graham Lasso. Tiny as I was, I used to put in those tackles like those English guys back then. At Gumare United. And then I came to Gaborone. In Gaborone, I didn't pursue the playing part of it. I only played for whatchamacallit, for the social club, the neighborhood teams.
And now, after the Tirolo Setšhaba, ordinarily now, someone will assume that you'll go into tertiary education. Did you go into that space, and what course did you pursue?
I went. Basically, I always wanted. When I reached that stage, what happened was there was a lot of government sponsorships. Those were the initial years when government started sending people out. So I hoped that maybe I would get a scholarship to go somewhere. The initial year I tried, I didn't succeed. Then I went to work for FNB. Right, I played football for the social club there at FNB. I used to play with what's his name, Reza Tsatsilev. Yeah, he was there at FNB. Was there anyone else at FNB that I can recall? No, but it was Reza. And then that year passed, and then second year tried again. Once again, I didn't succeed. So then I sort of anyway, let me just pursue whatever at UB. So I did a business administration course at UB.
And at that point, you did not play football, it was just the social
It was just a social game.
And so you can say I have experience of juggling football and studies at that level.
No, absolutely
You're
not.
focused.
I was focused.
And then after your completion of studies, you went around gaps, or should I say in your hood there, the Crowns. How did that come about, and how did you now get immersed into this the Crowns project?
Okay. I have a very good friend in Tumisang Ketaizwi. He was my neighbor, and we used to share a lot of likes. Even coming from Zimbabwe, I was a very big hip hop rap guy, and Tumisang also liked the same. But he was also an Arsenal supporter, while I was a Newcastle supporter. I suppose we'll get to that later. And then the Crowns was newly formed, right? And then Tumisang at the time was...
What year was this?
The Crowns was formed in 2003. That's when I graduated from UB. But I only got to join them, I think, 2006, right? The coach at the time was Ezekiel Mpuf. Yeah, he was neighbors with Tumisang, so they shared quite a good relationship. So they used to discuss the Premier League once again with each other. Mpuf was Liverpool, Tumisang was Arsenal. So as you will learn as the interview continues, the Crowns wasn't. It was more like an Abramovich type of a team. Yeah. So coaches used to get fired quite regularly. So in this particular instance, Mpofu was on his way out, but Tumisang was like his assistant at the time, right? So when Mpofu got out, Tumisang asked me to come and assist him at the football. Initially, I was kicking and screaming, but eventually I agreed, and I came in sort of like as his assistant. But the experience was purely from our analysis of the Premier League games and the conversation.
Without any formal qualification of coaching?
Without any formal qualification of coaching, yes, sir. And then we sort of like coached the Crowns together. And then at the time, as usual, as you will learn as the interview goes, I was more or less ahead of our time, in the sense that we would take video recordings of our games in 2006, and then later analyze them and actually plan trainings and do all the likes.
Oh, you're actually ahead of your time. Let's talk about the challenges that you actually faced during your early days and maybe at a later stage, Kago the Crowns, as a coach and also as an administrator.
As an administrator, well, basically it was a part-time thing. So what would happen is, we could only do it after hours, right? And we're both at the time were fresh into the work, because what happened was, when I graduated in 2003, I think it was the time when there was a whole lot of confusion at UB. There was a new style of GPA, what. Now we're from the 1 year long. We didn't have semester courses. It was a whole year program.
Semesterization.
So that was the year that they actually transitioned. But we ended up writing exams on Sundays and what have you. So when I wrote my last exam on a Sunday, and then on Monday I was at work at cell phone warehouse. So we were new into this job thing, and we didn't have so many hours to actually coach. But when we did, we were successful in the sense that we were able to actually promote the club from the second tier division to the first one.
And what division was this at the time?
It was Division 2. Remember, it started off in Division 4. The Crowns started off, it promoted Hadiki once off annually, from Division 4, Division 3, and then even to Division 1, it spent a year.
And this was during your time?
Yes.
So you're actually successful?
We were actually successful, but when we got to Division 1, it was a different story.
And now, as a coach, which players do you say, no, during this time I had this Ntwana, and this is how we did?
No, we had a whole team of good players. That's why we were able to succeed, right? It was a whole team, but it was we made sure that The mood in the camp was quite a good one. What? Where do I start? The Crowns is made up of the different structures: under 13, under 15, and senior team, right? And then what we used to do, we've always had the culture of promoting youngsters onto the
Progression.
yeah. There was a progression thing. So I remember in our trainings, most of the times, I don't know whether it happened naturally or what, but you would have a senior team and a younger team, and the trainings used to really get very competitive. That even tackles, you had to, you had to stop them. Yeah, guys, come on, you are teammates.
Now talking of this period, ke nako ya bo Archer le bo Marasta. And there's a nickname Marasta o bitsang ka yona.
Hurry,
I forgot.
there's nothing. I sing a lot of pizza chica.
Okay.
Hey, there's no nickname. But yes, give one of Marasta, Levo Archer, they were playing for the team, and we remember we bought video cameras. We used to have player of the match. Hey, and I remember even when we would call the lineup, it would be a few hours before the game, or maybe 2 hours before the game. The changing room will be packed, and people will be there anxiously wondering whether am I playing this week? Am I, That's how competitive it was. And each time, because we were working, we used to incentivize them by having man of the match and player of the month. So it was an exciting time.
You're talking of the pragmatic way of actually bringing data or analysis into the game. But we know our game has been infiltrated with this issue. What's your opinion on that?
Well, when we were playing, we never used to have that. But the guys were quite superstitious in the sense that the ground is from Pasha, right?
Yeah.
So the ground, there's a choppies around that area there. So when we were playing, they always believed that when we were taking the goal, that was closer to choppies, which was normally in the second half. That is when the game, that's when the team really played.
No, I can attest to that. I was attended a few games there. Yes.
Yeah, but you will know, if you know that also the ground it's not. So that's the better side to attack. That's where they train the most. So never do by choppies. So I think that used to be the greater motivation for the players during our era. But Paganyo really, in my understanding, I think it's a motivational thing.
Yeah. It's more psychological.
It's more psychological. If you believe that thing can do that for you, then why not? You see.
You face so many challenges as a coach, as an administrator, and even now, the issues about commercialization, professionalism. So where you are seated, what could be the 10K solution to actually, package football the way it's supposed to be packaged?
The way it's supposed to be packaged.
Yeah.
Well,
and provide that solution to say, no.
I know a lot of viewers who are going to watch this are going to really want to know what my opinion is on this one. But like I always mention, a problem is never. Let's take for instance, like I said, crowns in coach, but there's always. The coach is just a scapegoat. There's always more than one problem for a thing. Like I always tell you, they say for an aeroplane to actually crash, 6 items have to all go wrong at the same time. So basically, where do we start? First of all, there's the development, the play of the development. I think the development of players is still lacking. We still need to improve in that circle. I don't think our coaches are up to scratch, to compete globally. Locally, yes, maybe. But I think they need more aspiration. And this translates to the teams. The teams are also somewhat producing a substandard product that is not really mercantile, meaning it's not sellable, right? And then even the administrators, I think most of us were fanatics, just like I was in 2006 when went to the crowns.
And you actually believe that you are doing the right thing.
You understand? Yeah. But I mean, bringing in videos and what it was just, putting things together. Sometimes I suppose, remember, it's the guys who dropped out of school who are succeeding better than most of us who went to school. You see, so there's that instinct or gut thing about thinking. But going up back to the professionalization, so like I'm saying, even the administration of it, I think as football people, we are more focused on the 90 minutes than we are, because now it's about, in as much as I suppose football now has two parts. There's the sporting side, which is the 90 minutes, and also the business side, which is there to sustain that sporting side. So our competence when it comes to the business side, I think it's a bit lacking. It needs quite some thorough improvement. But because now the majority of us are focused on the technical side, we sort of like have our back to the business side. I think that's where the problem really lies.
And earlier on, you mentioned that actually during your tertiary or varsity days, you never actually played formal football. But here you are, you have a club in the Crowns, and you also want these kids to play football while they also school. So now I want to pick your brains here. What is your advice or opinion on players choosing employment over school or employment over football or whichever way? What is your opinion there? Should we do football and then school later? Should we do school? Or what's your opinion?
My opinion is a very strong one. Well, I come from like I said, I'm quite versatile in terms of the sports that I've played, and I think sports and education, or sports and academics, they go hand in hand. I don't think. Well, my background is such that like I said, I schooled in Zimbabwe. I used to spend hours playing cricket, Saturdays, whatever. And, sports stimulates the body differently to the academics. So I think the two need to go hand in hand. And remember again, when I came back from Zimbabwe, if ever I had wished to play football, I couldn't. But that couldn't part motivated me to actually sort of like attend it from a different angle, an administrator's point of view. When we are young, we all play. It's a mass participation thing. But because I couldn't succeed, because when you do participate in sport, you want to actually become an elite athlete. But for the majority of us, that doesn't happen. But we can participate in football even at elite level, not necessarily as the athlete, but as an administrator, which is why it's very important for students, even young, old, to participate in sports. And just to mention the schools that I went to, being Thornhill Primary and CBC Secondary, we had PE as part of the morning curriculum. Right up until I was in Form 4. That's where we got taught most of these sports. Yes. Yeah. So it's for me, it pains my heart when I don't see children playing sport, because truly it stimulates, like I said, it stimulates them differently, and they also need to play different sports, because I believe that's where they get their creativity from. When you're on the sports field, you're compelled to be creative. I mean, you can imagine when the ball comes to you, it's up to you to decide where to play it, how to think. So you develop some type of football intelligence. I think that's what they call it. And that stimulates you differently. And if you excel at that, you must be given that chance to excel. I think that's why, for the most part of football administration, there's a part that we omitted in terms of me joining the Crowns, in the sense that there was that tournament that was my brainchild. That we held annually, the under 15 thing. So I'm always sympathetic to the youngster, in that he needs to actually, be given an environment where he can play the sport and excel at it, and his road shouldn't be blocked by some government policy.
So your
or something.
sympathy is actually saying, do whatever you are good at.
Yes.
Be sport or
Yeah.
school.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, and I've heard in the circles that more Botswana, the student or the people, they sort of like mature late. You understand? So even in football, if a person can, my belief really is that principles are universal. You see, that's why we have social sciences. Who would have thought that things, you could approach social subjects in a scientific, methodical manner. So if you can develop the discipline, remember with sports, you also become disciplined. You know what I mean? Some number 2, you are a right back. You follow the principles of a right back. Now, if someone can be able to follow that and be good at it, but not be good at school, he's developing some principles, discipline differently.
That was Kago Mosinyi talking about his football life, and alluding to the fact that in football there are early boomers and there are late boomers, and we shouldn't impose our thoughts on these kids, but we just need to provide a facilitating environment for them to realize their potential, and also support them in education as well as in football. The environment should actually be conducive. Now let's listen to Me Brenda Mutsileng as she takes us through one of the services provided by Hope Worldwide Botswana.
Hope Worldwide, as you have heard on the previous series, that is an NGO that responds to HIV and GB prevention. It has multiple interventions tse leng gore ke tsone tse di thusa mo HIV and GBV prevention. Ke tla di tlhalosa ka ha di layerang ka teng on the layering table. Re simolola ka OVC, ya the orphans and vulnerable children. E leng gore re simolola ka ngwana o e leng gona a tsholwang from day 1 to 17 years, because ngwana o simolola o hella go 17 years mo Botswana. Mo OVC ke go re thusang bana ba e leng gore ke ba ba thokile lesego la go tlhokafalelwa ke the primary caregivers, motsadi, ba e leng gore ba iphitlhela ba na le vulnerability yone because ba tlhokile lesego lone leo. And mo go yone re thusa ka mananeo a harologane. Go na le bo schools mo re making sure gore re tsama mo di-householding, re making sure gore ngwana ga le teng mo lapeng ka dingwaga tse di rileng o tsena sekolo, o enrolled with school, ebile o tsena sekolo ka dingwaga tse di mo lebaganeng. Go na le bo safe, gore a mo lapeng le a le mo go lone ngwana o safe, legally safe, ebile o na le documents tse di legal tsa go supa gore ka maruri ngwana ke Motswana kana ke mokae, to reach out to the right to nationality ya ngwana. E be re nna le healthy, gore a botsogo ba ngwana bo a tsibogelwa sentle, a ngwana go itswe status sa gagwe, le batsadi ba nna le bone mo lapeng ba setseng le ene ba go itswe status sa bone. Ga di sa itse gore thusana le gore ngwana a thusiwa le ke ba bongaka go hella go itswe status. Ga le gore ngwana o tshelana le mogare a o tsa diritibatse sentle, ebile go na le nako e tshwanang gore a ba rutiwa gore ke ngantse a tsa diritibatse tseo mo go bidiwang go te disclosure. A mehuta mananeo a offeriwang, the services that are offered mo OVC, mme di tla tulisiwa ga ntse re tswela with our series. E be re nna le dreams, e leng gore it's the movement of girls by girls, e rutwang bana ko sekweleng. Bana ba rutwa to be determined, to be resilient, to be empowered, AIDS-free, mentored, and safe. Mo go yone ya dreams, bana go na le mananeo a rutwang a go teng life skills e leng gore yo fariwa bana botlhe mo dikolong through the guidance sessions tsa go sekolong ka nako tsa guidance go sekoleng bana ba hiwa the life skills tse leng gore di tla ba thusa gona gore ba nne empowered jala ka ne ka tlhalosa gore dreams o emetse eng e be go nna mo go teng ya banyana hela like I said, dreams is a movement of girls by girls e leng gore mo go yone go tsewa bana mo ba bewa mo di safe spacing after assessment e be ba lemogiwa gore ba na le ba hapegile mo go ba bangwe ka tsela e ntseng jang ba tsengwa mo di safe spacing ko ba nna le di mentor ba ba nnang ba ba coacher mentoring ka tsone ba le going deep into the content e ba hiwang mo life skills gore ba nne mo maemong a ba ka ikemelang ka nosi ba le ka go hema gone go iphitlhela ba kgontshitswe ba ka tsanwa le ke one mogare e be re lemoga gore okay ko dreams ke banyana hela be go nna le an intervention e bidiwang coaching boys into men e caterelang ngwana wa mosimane ba mo go yone go dirisiwa sporting because ke sone se se kgonang go kgobokanya ngwana wa mosimane compared to bana ba basana ba ba kgonang go tsibogela pitso nngwe le nngwe in coaching boys into men we use the sporting coaches ba ileng gore ke nna bone the role models and the leaders tsa bana ba ba utlwa botoka so we train the coaches as the mouthpiece o tla tlang go baneng ka lehoko ba rutwa how to unlearn from violence behaviors tse leng gore se ka re ke culture ba rutwa ba gurumiwa gore ba gole e le bana ba ba responsible go dira lone le lo jwa le sa le metsi gore ba ska bana left out ya ka go dreams ne go te movement for girls and then e be go nna le itemogelo ya gore ngwana o ka mo ruta a nna empowered a ke ngwana mo tsana kana wa mosimane mme ngwana o tlhoka support we go home ngwana ha tswa go sekolong a sna rutwa o ya go lapeng go eleng gore o tlhoka support e rileng e leng gore botsadi ke bone the role models tse ditona tsa bana and we have an intervention e bidiwang pina gare e leng gore yone it's meant for adolescent children ha se tsabatsana mo stage sone se o sa ba kgarakgatsega maikutlo go simolla go nna di hormone maikutlo a mantsi mo go yone ngwana o rutwa ngwana le motsadi or say parents both or a primary caregiver motsadi ke motho yo nang le ngwana e le mogolo yo hitang 18 years yo nang le ngwana sebaka se se ntse sa gagwe e le wa madi kana ese wa madi mo go yone pina gare it's a parenting program e leng gore go buildiwa a trusting a caring and loving relationship between ngwana le motsadi because most stages se ngwana wa ba tlhoka coaching e botlhokwa motsadi le ene wa ba tlhoka gore ga coacha ngwana le ene a tlhoka gore a itsetse pele because le bone batsadi ba nna confused ga ngwana sta le mo adolescent stage gore ke mo gakolla jang ke mo ruta jang sex education ke mo ruta jang go ithuta go dirisa mesangwana ya bo mme ke mo ruta jang go simolla go itse go tlhokomela yone the first skin le ga ile ngwana wa mosimane ke gore a itlhokomele jang le gore ba tlhaloganyeletsa ka madi mo lapeng gore ba ska ba iphitlhela ba computela ba nkana ba hithelwa ke batho ba ba kgontshang bana ba lebeletse seemo sa bone sa komalwapeng that's the parenting program that we offer with the multiple services mo go yone tse di tlanang di ntse di atolosiwa in the coming series and then ngwana ga hele ko lapeng between school le ko lapeng ngwana wa rumiwa mo di neighboreng o tshela in the community and we have a community intervention e leng gore e bidiwa go te SASA is an acronym e rang start awareness support and action e leng gore e simolotswe jalo e le go gokola Swahili sa gore act now e leng gore e ne e direlwa gone gore ne go itemogetse gore kgontso e ntsi e neng e reportiwa e supa gore bo mme le bana ba kgontshiwa thata e be bao ba Swahili ba bua lone le go leo la SASA gore let us act now re emise yone kgontso it's a community mobilization intervention e leng gore e kgobokanya di community as per their types e ka nna go tirong e ka nna the LGBTQI+ community e ka nna community e berekang ipelegeng e ka nna batho ba hudi kana khotlana e rileng ba bua ka kgontso e ba mamolehelong leo e be go ka bua gore e ka hokotswa jang go ka thusana jang ka se tshwara ke ntšapedi ga se thata go engagewa bothe ba ba gauhi gone ho ka jalo ke tsone di intervention tseo tse di offerwang ke Hope Worldwide Botswana.
Mr. Kago, let me take this opportunity to thank you and wish you well and keep doing what you are doing for the development of football in Botswana.
All right, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That was it for tonight. Thanks to Hope Worldwide Botswana and also our production team at Deep Take. Until we meet again next time. Bye-bye.